بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم أما بعد. This session now is about, as appears in the program, an introduction to the School of Medina. Maliki fiqh based on Ibn Ashir's text al-Murshid al-Mu'in, and a general presentation to the School of Medina as transmitted by Imam Malik radiallahu anhu. The characteristic of the School of Medina and the need to return to the sources of the original Islamic phenomena in order to revitalize and activate the role of the Sharia in our daily lives and in our current society or in our current affairs. And according to this, finishing with Maghrib, Q&A session and biryani. Right. As we said, the Murshid al-Mu'in has a structure of 11 sections, but mainly it has 3 parts. First part on Aqidah, second part on Maliki fiqh. First part, in Ash'ari Aqidah, second part on Maliki fiqh, third part on Tasawwuf. The second part is the one that we will be looking at it in this session. But today's session will have an introduction to what is the Maliki fiqh. Or as I called it here, the School of Medina. Madhab al-Medina. Madhab al-Medina. So today, it is most probable that we are not going to be able to start with the Murshid al-Mu'in. If we're fortunate, I will be able to finish the introduction to the School of Medina. If not, then we'll have to continue. We will stop for Maghrib at 3:53. Right. That means that probably we'll have to resume after Maghrib a bit of a class, right? And then we'll have some questions and answers. What time is biryani? We don't want delays.
4:30 will be here.
Okay. All right. So that's good. At 4:30 we'll be here. At least we know. All right. So I'm going to start with a very brief biography of Imam Malik radiallahu anhu. Imam Malik rahimahullah is the Imam of the abode of the Hijrah, Imam Darul Hijrah. From the 3rd generation of the Salaf. This is a very important point that he shares with Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. He's from the 3rd generation of the Salaf, which technically are called Tabi' Tabi'in or Atba' Tabi'in, right? This is an important point that we will return to it throughout our explanation. And I will ask from you total concentration because I'm going to go through things that are complex. Alright? So we need your concentration. If you don't understand something, let me know. Alright? And I'll explain it to you. If there is any problem with understanding anything. Because I'm going to get into usul al-fiqh. The science of usul al-fiqh. Right? Anyway, let's carry on with a short biography. He passed away, radiallahu anhu, in the year 179 of the Hijrah.
He died, so he passed away.
Yeah. Approximately 795 of the Christian era. His teachers were Nafi' Mawla ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. And don't forget, he transmits from him hadith directly. Between him and the Sahabi is only one person. An Malik, an Nafi', an Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma. And then Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or whatever. So he transmits from the Sahabi who saw directly the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam only with one link, which is this freed slave of Abdullah ibn Umar, right?
So there was a generation between
specifically in all the hadiths that he transmits through that line. That line is called al-silsila al-dhahabiyya, the golden chain. Because it's silsila al-dhahabiyya, why? Because the hadith was written and fixed at that time, written of course in his Muwatta, and a very, very early period is the hadith, or one of the hadiths with a shorter chain, is the one who writes it and transmits it from the Sahabi with only one person in between. So you can imagine his proximity to the original phenomenon. So among his teachers were Nafi', Mawla ibn Umar, Az-Zuhri, Rabi'atul Ra'i, and others. His school is unique in representing the living prophetic Sunnah as mass transmitted by the inhabitants of the blessed city where the Sharia was revealed. What is this blessed city? Medina. He took the position of fatwa after 70 shuyukh confirmed him in that capacity. 70 shuyukh told him, now you can. He is known as the Imam of the Imams, Imam al-A'imma. Why? Because he taught Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani, the disciple of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam al-Shaybani al-Hanafi. He taught Imam al-Shafi'i, and via Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was the disciple of Imam al-Shafi'i. So he is known as Imam al-A'imma. Because of his teachings to Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani, the Hanafi madhab was significantly changed. He wrote the Muwatta, famous, the Muwatta. One of the famous transmissions of the Muwatta is by Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani. But the one that was more famous and the people of Maliki madhab use is the transmission of Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi. He wrote the Muwatta, and his fiqh is collected in the Mudawwana of Sahnun, another book written by Sahnun, where the opinions of Imam Malik radiallahu anhu are gathered in a form of questions and answers. And I'm not going to go very much in detail about the Mudawwana. Right. So this is a short biography of Imam Malik radiallahu anhu. And I have to say that there is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Imam Malik. يَكَادُ النَّاسُ يَضْرِبُونَ أَكْبَادَ الْإِبْلِ طَالِبِينَ الْعِلْمَ فَلَا يَجِدُونَ عَالِمًا أَعْلَمْ مِنْ عَالِمِ الْمَدِينَ. The people, and this is in Tirmidhi, hadith sahih. The people will be literally يَضْرِبُونَ أَكْبَادَ الْإِبْلِ means hitting the livers of camels. But it is an expression to mean going far away. Recorriendo largas distancias. Yeah, going long distances. طالبين العلم, looking for knowledge. فلا يجدون أعلم من عالم المدينة, if I'm not mistaken on the hadith. I will get you the proper reading. Or عالما أعلم من أهل المدينة, or أعلم من عالم أهل المدينة. No, أعلم من عالم المدينة. Nobody more knowledgeable than the alim of Medina. This was said by the Prophet ﷺ. So everyone, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you can ask anyone about it. This is a hadith sahih that appears in the Tirmidhi. Now the thing is, what means this alim al-Medina? Because then you can say, why you claim that this alim al-Medina that the Prophet ﷺ mentions in this hadith, why do you claim is Malik? Well, because when you say alim al-Medina, everybody will tell you the person known as alim al-Medina is Imam Malik. There is nobody known in the history of Islam as having that how would you say, name, title, thank you, except Malik ibn Anas radiallahu anhu. At the beginning, the Sahaba didn't know who he was, because this was the Prophet ﷺ prophetizing. Right? He was saying something that will happen in the future. So they didn't know. And then in the time of the Tabi'een, they had differences of opinion. Maybe this, maybe that. But when Imam Malik came and he appeared and was known that he was Alim al-Medina, the consensus of the ulama of the Ummah was established that that hadith was a clear reference to Imam Malik radiallahu anhu. So we have from Habib Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam a clear indication that there is no one will come, that no one will come after him that will be more knowledgeable than him, than Imam Malik. This is only the beginning, eh? I'm going there. As I said, sharpen your intellects, because we're getting into a field that demands great attention and concentration. Alright? Don't play with mobiles, please, because this is, if you want to play whatever you want. You know? But if you want to grasp what is here, you have to concentrate. I could speak about the madhab of Medina, the madhab of the alim of Medina, as is defined in the hadith, speaking about its different characteristics, etc., etc. But I will concentrate on specific aspects that makes him different from the other madhabs. Now you will ask me, why? Speaking about the Maliki madhab, in a إذا صح التعبير, as we say in Arabic, in Hanafi territory, or in a land which is predominantly Hanafi. You may say, it doesn't make sense. Or why? Do you want to take us out from our madhab? Are you getting any commission for getting people signing up with the Maliki madhab? No. For any person, whether he's Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanafi, Hanbali, to know about these things are good. This knowledge. This is ilm. And ilm, you can have as much as you want, and you will never get indigestion. But also, there are maybe among us people who are not traditionally Hanafi. People who have become Muslim. They were not Muslim before, and then they became Muslim. And they haven't made up their mind which is the madhab they want to follow. So, I want to tell them about this is the Maliki madhab. They may be convinced that this is a madhab that I would like to follow. Because you have to follow a madhab. Now, before I carry on, do I have to explain this last sentence? That you have to follow a madhab? Is there anybody here that has a doubt about this? Because there's no, it doesn't make sense that I carry on speaking about the Maliki madhab if it is not first understood that you have to follow a madhab.
Can you precisely clarify that point?
Concisely is not very possible. Yes. Yes. Speak.
In terms of madhab, if you choose your madhab, there's some people who want to pick and choose the easy bits from the madhab.
Yeah.
Is it allowed, or you have your madhab, follow one?
Right.
Because would that be following the madhab, or would that
That's a good question.
follow the bits across?
So how does the person that chooses the easy bits?
Because if someone says, Imam Malik says this, and Imam says this, then say, okay, which one's easier? This also says, choose the easy option. And they'll just pick the easy bit from each one.
That the ulama have said that is tatabbu' al-rukhas. This is looking for permissions, isn't it? Looking for dispensations. And they say that is not good, because it makes the deen of the person very, very weak. You have to look for the rukhsa and for the azima. You have to be consistent on your position. Pick and choose and always go for the easy. It's like it's like not taking your deen seriously. And also, when you follow a madhab, you follow a specific method and you follow a specific way of approaching and looking at things. If you play with it, it's like you're playing with your own deen. It doesn't mean that sometimes you are allowed to take a dispensation when there are clear reasons to do it, and that may entail going out of your madhab. But it shouldn't be the rule. Choosing a dispensation can be an exception to the rule, but not the rule. Does it make sense? So, do you understand it? Any other difficulty or question in regard to the matter of following a school of fiqh or madhab? No? Everybody has that clear? Huh? Yes? No? No. I'm open now to the questions.
I suppose the question is how you actually go about doing that. If you decide, okay, I'm Maliki now, how do you become Maliki?
Alright, okay, but that's one thing. Yeah, that's fair enough. But the that is that you have to make sure that you have to follow a school of fiqh. Yes?
Before, not before, other than before Imam, there were scholars who have make their own opinion on something.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Do people follow? Does that count as following madhab?
No, because it's not codified as a madhab. There's fragmented opinions of him in one place or another. He has not have followers who have preserved and codified the school. So we don't know about the Imam al-Thawri or al-Awza'i and all these imams who came before, Abu Dawud al-Dhahiri and all that. We don't know because they haven't had followers, therefore they haven't had a school, and there haven't been a preservation of the madhab. We knew that they were great mujtahid, that they have their own opinion, that they didn't follow any school because they reached that level of ijtihad, but their madhabs have not been preserved. Right? Alright, so let's carry on and speak with them about it. The general grounds, usul, taken by Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, as the basis to issue his legal opinions, fatawi, are the Quran, the Sunnah, consensus, ijma', and analogy, qiyas. Right? He shares it with the rest of the A'immah. Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' Qiyas. Quran, Sunnah, consensus, and analogy, like all the other three. These are the grounds that all the scholars have used in general terms, and that all unanimously agree on. However, Malik stands out due to using principles that are uniquely specific to himself. So Imam Malik shares with the other three Imams elements of his methodology in deriving the ahkam, the judgments from the Quran and the Sunnah. And which are these common elements that he, the like of all the other Imams, first is based on the Quran, then the Sunnah, then the Ijma', and then analogy, qiyas. Right? But he has specific principles that he follows that are uniquely characteristic of him. Al-Qadi Iyad states in his Tartib al-Madarik, if you observe the methodology of these Imams for the first time, the sources regarding fiqh and the way in which they proceed in ijtihad, you will see that Malik, rahimahullah, proceeded with regard to these grounds by taking them in the relevant order. He placed the Quran before the Hadith, then he placed the Hadith before the analogy, and considerations arising from reflection, and then consideration arising from reflection. With regard to the Hadith, he usually rejected all those that had not been transmitted, taking responsibility thereof by persons of authority and confidence. It needs a polish in this translation. So basically, he usually rejected all those hadith that have not been transmitted by persons of authority and confidence. He rejected those hadiths he only accepted hadiths from persons who knew what they were transmitted and what they were not transmitted. I mean, who have knowledge of the science of transmitting the hadith. And he rejected hadith that the great majority of the people of Medina did not put into practice. This is a point that I'll come back to it again. So Imam Malik rejected the hadith which were not acted upon by the people of Medina. Why? I will explain it. Malik usually ignored those who used their mere opinion to incorrectly interpret that attitude of his, or that position of him. So there were people who will accuse Imam Malik for rejecting a hadith which are sahih. And he will say, this hadith is not practiced in Medina Munawwara. So some people said, why? And he will ignore them. You want to know why? Come to Medina. He will say, come to Medina, the Quran was not revealed in the Euphrates. If you want to know why, you have to come and live here and understand it by living here. It's not a mental thing. It's not something that you can learn by distance. You have to have and feel have the existential experience of living in Medina. Then you'll understand. A more detailed and precise account of the grounds or principles of the Maliki School of Law, Madhab, is provided by al-Qarafi in his book Tanqih al-Fusul, stating that there are the Quran, the Sunnah, al-Ijma' consensus, the practice of the people of Medina, Amal Ahl al-Medina, analogy, qiyas, the opinion of a companion of the Prophet, Amal al-Sahabi, or Qawl al-Sahabi, afwan, general interests, al-Maslaha al-Mursala, practice or custom, urf, avoiding pretext, sadd al-dhara'i', judicial homogeneity, istishab, and consideration of convenience, istihsan.
You say the name and the book again, please, sorry.
Yep. Al-Quran, As-Sunnah, Tanqih al-Fusul by al-Qarafi. Malik considered the practice of the people of Medina and the opinion of a companion, Sahabi, to be grounds that fall within the category of the Sunnah. And I'll explain why. Likewise, general interest, practices and custom, avoiding pretext, judicial homogeneity, and consideration of convenience are grounds that fall within the category of opinion. Alright. Sticking to the matter with which we are now concerned, we shall now concentrate on the three grounds that are directly related to what was done in the city of Medina in the times of the three generations after the Prophet ﷺ. Peace be upon him. And that in itself has a superiority, veracity, and nearness to the Sunnah with regard to the Hadith, which it may sometimes contradict. Okay, let me explain to you with plain words to make the thing easy. We all say that the first thing that fiqh is based is the Quran, right? Everybody agrees. All the fuqaha agree. The Quran is the fiqh. So we're not going to talk now about it. The second is Sunnah or Hadith? Sunnah or Hadith, or is the same? That's the question. That's the question. You see? Does Sunnah equals Hadith, or Sunnah does not equal Hadith, or sometimes it equals, sometimes doesn't? Yes?
On the Hadith, a report of the Sunnah.
Yeah. It's a report of the Sunnah, yeah, but is all the Sunnah contained in the Hadith?
No.
Or there are more elements of the Sunnah which are not in the Hadith?
That's right. Your last statement.
That's the thing. Every alim, after the Quran, establishes fiqh on the Sunnah. But not all the ulama, or not all the imams, from the 4 imams, understand Sunnah in the same way. Some ulama, when you say Sunnah, or some imams, when you say the Sunnah is this, means that Hadith, إذا صح الحديث فذلك مذهبي. Imam Shafi'i says, if the Hadith sahih, that's my madhab. But not everybody is like Imam Shafi'i, because Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, for example, he will use also da'if hadith which are da'if. And sometimes Imam Abu Hanifa will reject the hadith which is sahih because a qiyas based on a higher, or on a text of higher strength like Quran contradicts that hadith. So we will not consider it as the Sunnah. Sometimes an opinion of a Sahabi which has no link, which has not apparent link, or there's not evident or chain or explicit chain related to the Prophet, is considered the Sunnah, despite the hadith which goes directly to the Prophet ﷺ, and it's a clear link. But because this Sahabi said, this Sahabi is specifically this Sahabi, his opinion will be considered stronger, because it's not his opinion. It seems as if it is his opinion, but it's really the Sunnah. So the hadith, despite being sahih, will be discarded, because it is the hadith, but it's not the Sunnah. I will explain that. If you have doubts, I will come and explain it. And sometimes a hadith is totally sahih, but the practice in Medina, as Imam Malik says, the practice in Medina has nothing to do with that hadith or contradicts it, then he will discard the hadith. He will say, yeah, it's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. I don't deny that the Prophet ﷺ did it, but if it's not the practice of the people of Medina, it means that the Prophet changed, abrogated that hadith, established another practice, and that's what has been transmitted publicly. And that is what is the Sunnah. Right? So the conception of Sunnah varies from one Imam to another. Therefore, when you find these people going around, oh, but there is a hadith that says, and throw the hadith to you. You can't. You can't. Just like that. You cannot just do it like that. Because one thing is the hadith, one thing is the Sunnah. Sometimes the hadith is the expression of the Sunnah, sometimes the hadith has been abrogated. Either by another hadith, either by amal, either sometimes it contradicts a qiyas established on a text which has a higher level, like Quran, qat'i urud. Sometimes there is a lot of elements that can discard a specific hadith. So that game that you see nowadays, people, but there is a hadith. The science is far more complex of what they think. The people think that they read the translation of one translation of the Quran and they have the how many volumes? 9 volumes of Sahih Bukhari, and that's it. They are beautiful. They're big imams. They're big donkeys. That's what they are. Not for having that, but for thinking that having that makes you an imam and superior to the imams of the madhab. Alright, so on the basis of that, what time is it? 53, eh? Right. On the basis of that, I'm going to concentrate in one aspect, one specific aspect of the characteristic of the Maliki fiqh, or the Maliki usul, the Maliki methodology. Fatwa sahabi, or qawl sahabi, the juridical opinion of a companion. Or judicial, or juridical. Whatever. I'm not English. You sort it. You sort it. And Imam Abu Zahra, famous writer and alim from Egypt, from Al-Azhar, states in his book Malik, one may observe after study of the basis of the Malik fiqh and the Muwatta that Malik, like Ahmad bin Hanbal radiallahu anhuma, used to base themselves on the saying of the companions, due to considering them sources of fiqh, conclusive proofs, and part of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Thus, whoever knew the sayings of the companions knew the Sunnah due to that. Not to follow them was to innovate. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah in his I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in proves that the sayings of the companions are part of the Sunnah, using the following words. When the companion says something, judges or gives an opinion, he has a source that only he knows, and another that we know. With regard to that source of his own, he might have received it directly from the Prophet ﷺ or through another companion, who in turn had received it from the Prophet. That which they knew and we ignore is much more than what we are able to fathom. They did not transmit everything they heard. How can we compare what Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, or Umar al-Faruq radiallahu anhu, or other great companions were able to hear with what they have transmitted to us? Not even 100 hadith were transmitted by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Not even 100. Even though he never left the Prophet's side. He accompanied him even before he became the messenger, until the day he died. He had the greatest knowledge of the Prophet ﷺ regarding his sayings, acts, instructions, and biography. Likewise, the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ transmitted very few of his ahadith compared with what they were able to hear or see him doing. Who's the companion who transmitted more ahadith? Abu Hurairah. How many years he stayed with the Prophet ﷺ? 4, 2. Right? Compare that with Sayyidina Abu Bakr. They used to take great care when transmitting something from the Prophet ﷺ. They considered it a serious matter, so they did not do so frequently, in case they added or left out something. Not like now. People is eating and with his mouth full of food and the thing coming out of his mouth is telling you a hadith. They don't even have the adab. Imam Malik radiallahu anhu, when he will recite hadith, he will dress with white clothes, burn oud, in a solemn act. He will sit down with humbleness, and his whole body will shaking when he will be mentioning the words of the Prophet ﷺ. That was his adab with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. You remember those who were yesterday in the dhikr, and when we spoke about the adab the adab that has been lost nowadays in everything. The gravity of when you mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people are, mashallah, alhamdulillah, they speak like if they're without depth and being aware that they're saying, that they're mentioning the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even when you say assalamu alaikum, as-salam is one of the names of Allah. Assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum, what is this? Assalamu alaikum. You don't have to go as if you know, be natural, but understand you're mentioning one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They used to say what they heard from the Prophet ﷺ without stating that they have heard it from him. Not saying, Qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? The Sahaba will say what they've heard the Prophet saying or what they've seen the Prophet say without saying Qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because their concern was action. One thing is action and another thing is to transmit the hadith. There were Sahaba that took on themselves the transmission of hadith, like Anas ibn Malik, Abu Hurairah, radiallahu anhuma. That was their thing. So they are the muhaddithin of the Sahaba. But the rest of the Sahaba, especially those who have great knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their main thing was action. So they will do things and say things that they heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they will not link it. But that does not diminish in any way the value of what they're saying. The fatwas of the Sahaba could only be based on 7 factors. Something taken directly from the Prophet ﷺ. Something taken from somebody who had taken it directly from the Prophet. Something that they, in their understanding, had interpreted from the Quran without us being able to appreciate it. 4. Something that all of them had agreed over and that had only reached us through the reference of the person who issued the fatwa. Something that, due to their perfect knowledge of Arabic language, is a linguistic subtlety that we are not able to appreciate. Concomitant circumstances to issue of the hadith means circumstances accompanying a specific hadith. Many accumulated reasons that he would know due to his long experience of life with the Prophet ﷺ as a witness of his actions, states, words, intentions, immediate disclosure of the revelation and its subsequent interpretation. That would make him appreciate details we could not appreciate. So fatwa sahabi, qawl sahabi is something very serious. That's why for those 7 reasons it is compulsory for us to follow their fatwa and their opinions. This makes us see that Malik who took the sayings of the companions anhum, due to the considering them to be part of the Sunnah, not by mere following taqleed. So when Imam Malik will take this opinion of the Sahabi is because he considers that's the Sunnah. The difference in attitude regarding the sayings by the companions is fundamental. Considering the sayings of the companions to be part of the Sunnah makes it possible that when a saying by a companion contradicts a hadith, preference may be given to follow one or another, due or on the basis of considering them in the same category. However, to consider the sayings of the companions to be merely their opinion means that they may only be taken into account when there is no hadith that provides a solution. So it depends, how do you consider that the opinion of a companion is? If you consider that it's part of the Sunnah, then you put it at the same level of the Hadith. If you consider not, then you only use it once you first looked into the Hadith. Al-Shafi'i radiallahu anhu, he will always, because of his methodology, he would prefer the Hadith rather than the opinion of a companion. Because he would not put at the same level the opinion, or the saying. Because when you say opinion means as if it is his own opinion. No, the saying of a Sahabi, he will not put it at the same level as a hadith. Because his logic, his rationale is, well, has been said by sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَكُلُّ قَوْلٍ يُؤْخَذُ وَيُرَدْ مِنْهُ إِلَّا قَوْلُ صَاحِبِ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ. As the Imam Malik used to say, every opinion can be taken or rejected except the opinion of the one who's in this tomb, meaning the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he would say, no, this is the saying of our Sahaba, I will never put it before the saying of or the saying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the thing is that for other Imams, that saying of the Sahabi is part of the Sunnah. He hasn't said just because it's his own opinion. He has taken it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this thing is what Imam Malik says. And that's why Imam Shafi'i has disagreed with Malik. That may be seen in the book of Shafi'i al-Umm, where he claims that Malik sets aside the hadith in favor of the saying of a companion. In the book of Shafi'i, we see how Malik radiallahu anhu takes the saying of Umar ibn al-Khattab, in which he states it is not advisable to go on Umrah during the months of Hajj, contradicting the hadith of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, in which the Prophet ﷺ performed Umrah during the months of Hajj. Malik states that Umar knows the Prophet ﷺ better than Sa'id. So he chooses the opinion of Umar even though it contradicts the hadith. Can you see that? So, this Sahabi relates this thing about the Prophet ﷺ. And this other Sahabi has said it's makruh to do Umrah during the months of Hajj. Right? Apparently, the Prophet, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas has transmitted that from the Prophet ﷺ. End of the story. But Imam Malik looks at it deeper and he says, wait a moment. If Umar is saying it's makruh to do Umrah during Hajj, he's not making it up. Is he issuing? Is he making the Sharia? Are we accusing now Umar that he's inventing the Sharia, knowing that the Prophet ﷺ has done it? And then he looks at the Sahabi and says, who knows the deen better? Who's more aware about the ahkam al-deen? Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas or Umar? And he said, no, definitely Umar. So whatever Umar said, that's it. And this is very amazing. That Nakha'i, which was the disciple of Abdullah ibn Umar, he used to say, لو رأيتهم يتوضؤون إلى الكوعين لفعلت لما تجاوزته وأنا أقرأها إلى المرفقين. He said, if I see them doing wudu up to here, meaning the Sahaba, I won't go further. And I'm reading it in the book of Allah up to here. You see? It's a way of exaggerating. They say, I can see in the book of Allah, they say up to here, up to elbow. But if I see the Sahaba doing it up to here, I won't go further. Means they will know why. It's in an exaggerated way explaining this. Meaning that the Sahaba, the knowledge of the Sunnah that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had is far superior of what we have. And claiming that we can override them by using a continuous isnad hadith is not a good principle. A Shafi'i, of course, he will differ. He will tell you, well, I don't know. He's saying that, the Sahabi is saying that. I don't have a clear proof that he's saying it from the Prophet ﷺ. But you see the rationale of Shafi'i, you see the rationale of the others, ulama, Imam Malik among them, saying, no. If the Sahabi is doing this, there is a reason, and that is the Sunnah. You see the difference between Sunnah and Hadith? Very good, because we have to stop here. Because Maghrib comes, and then we carry on, inshallah. So, as we were saying, all this shows how Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, disagreeing with his master, or his teacher, sorry, it is not from the Imam Malik's point of view, of course, if it's not as solidly or well grounded as it looks, or as it seems. As Malik, rahimahullah, does not reject a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to opt for the opinion of a companion and thus disobey the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Something unthinkable in the Imam of Dar al-Hijrah and head of the Muhaddithin. That's a very important thing. Imam Malik was Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. He was the person with more knowledgeable of his time, not only in fiqh, but on Hadith. but rather by following a saying, by following the saying of a companion, and above all, companion who lived after the Prophet ﷺ for a long time, and who lived with the Prophet, and with a long time, and after the Prophet ﷺ, and who knew his Sunnah very well. So by following that Sahabi, what he was really doing was to abide by the Sunnah. What Malik rahimahullah defends is that the transmission that reaches us from a companion is often the Sunnah itself, without the chain of transmission necessarily having to reach to the Prophet ﷺ. Right? So in one way, if we take the opinion of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, and we go, it is his opinion. He's a mujtahid, so it's his opinion. كل مجتهد مصيب ولو أخطأ. Every mujtahid has it's not مصيب. كل مجتهد مثاب ولو أخطأ. Every mujtahid has a reward even if he makes a mistake. And if he's got it right, then he has 2 rewards. But if we take that opinion, that position of Imam Shafi'i, what happens is, the consequence of it is, it amounts to attributing to oneself a greater access to the Sunnah than that the companions had. You see what I'm saying? To consider that the access that one has to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is superior to the access the companions had to him. Do you see how? If you say no, there's a hadith that says that you can do Umrah during the months of Hajj. Well, and that you take that position. Well, what you mean is that you know the Sunnah better than Umar ibn Khattab. Yes?
So therefore it's makruh, or?
It's makruh according to Umar ibn Khattab. Another example. Anas ibn Malik, rahimahullah, famous Sahabi and transmitter of Hadith, states that whenever he prayed behind Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, and Uthman radiallahu anhu, they did not recite the Basmala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the prayer, before the Fatiha. If there is a hadith that certifies that the Prophet ﷺ recited the Basmala in the Fatiha, then the consequence is that basically, in one way, what you suggesting is that neither Sayyidina Abu Bakr nor Umar nor Uthman radiallahu anhum knew how to pray. Or they did not wish to imitate the Prophet ﷺ, and then they innovated. Both affirmations are outrageous. Yeah.
There's a further indication in the fact that it's related by Anas ibn Malik, who was the Khadim of Rasul for 10 years.
Yeah.
So he would have seen that.
And now the Shafi'i position is that if you don't say the Fatiha, your prayer is not valid. If you don't say the Fatiha, if you don't say the Basmala in the Fatiha, your prayer is not valid.
I think what's implied by that is that they recited it quietly rather than aloud. Is the Shafi'i position. The Shafi'i position is to read aloud. I know.
If it's loud, if it's silent, yeah.
I think, is it not still compulsory to recite it at least quietly?
In the Maliki madhab, it's makruh to recite the Basmala in the Fard Salah. The Maliki madhab is Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, directly. In fact, the Allahu Akbar, if it's done by the Imam, it has to be even short, not very long. Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. There is no dua, there is no there's no A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Although there is a position in the Maliki madhab that says, in order to get out of the khilaf, you can recite it silently, right? That's a position Maliki madhab. But the original Maliki position is Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah. No, it's makruh to say the Basmala, right? Anyway, that's interesting. Now, please don't take all these things that I'm saying as if I'm trying to create in you the opinion that the ai were saying these things and they are evil people. That's not my intention. My belief is that the 4 schools of fiqh are correct. And whichever school of fiqh that you follow, you are following a correct school of fiqh. Is that clear?
Yes.
But my position is, look at the Maliki school and judge whether it is not better than the others. It's up to you to decide. And up to me to explain it to you. Alright? And I have the right to claim that. I don't have the right to claim that the other schools are wrong. Because that is against what the ulama al-Sunnah have said. But I have the right to claim that mine is better. I have all the right. All the right. And nobody will convince me if he tells me, no, they are all the same. They are all the same in one sense, yes. They are all the same because they are all correct. But within the correctness, yeah. The correct interpretation is that the Prophet ﷺ recited the Basmala on occasions. But he ceased to do so. And the final rule being that which is more important, and the final rule being that which his more important companions followed, being the one that was followed by his more important companions, which is not to recite the Basmala. So the Prophet ﷺ did recite the Basmala. That's why there is hadith about it. But what was the last practice of the Prophet? And this is something that I will go back to it again.
What about, saying the Bismillah before you do something?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And then you say Allah Akbar. You can say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you can say Subhanallah, you can say whatever you want. You can say, what time is it, please? And there's no problem. No, I'm serious. You can say the Iqamah and then what time is it? Yeah, alright, then you pray. It doesn't invalidate, you don't have to repeat the Iqamah because you have spoken. It's something that I'm going to come back to this statement. Throughout my explanation, I'm highlighting some statements that I say, I am going to come back to this. Please do mark them, do write them, because those are important elements. So, the last practice of the Prophet. The last practice of the Prophet. When I say the last, this is the last practice. I mean, the Prophet ﷺ did things in different ways. But his last way of doing things is the one that prevails, because it abrogates what came before. The Prophet, when sometimes he raised his hands up to here, sometimes up to here. What was his last way of doing it? The Prophet ﷺ prayed like this. The Prophet ﷺ prayed like this. And he also prayed like, alright? The way of sitting in the prayer as well. The way to say the salam as well. We're not denying the transmissions that transmit a specific way. What we say is, what was the last one? Because the last one is the one that counts. The last one is always the last one that counts. Because it's what abrogates the other one. The ones that were previous. Yeah, this concept of the last practice is very important. The posture of a Shafi'i, basically, it leaps over the first generation of Muslims, their practice and knowledge, and claim direct, total, independent access to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Well, that's his position in the sense that he feels more secure with that. Obviously, he came in a time when there was a lot of lying about what was the correctness. So he had to find a method that will certify, that will, for him, will be something that certifies correctness. So he chose to base itself in the isnad of the hadith. He was not convinced by other possibilities and other methods. That's his prerogative. And he's correct in that. Because if he's a mujtahid, he has to do ijtihad and he has to follow his position, his opinion. But what Imam Malik, what we say is that in the time of Imam Malik and the nearness of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, to the original phenomenon in the place where it happened, that's a specific thing. That's a special thing. And we'll come back to why Medina is special. So that position may lead to a radical postures as that of Shaykh-Shawkani, rahimahullah, who was a great alim, but who in his famous book, Irshad al-Fuhul in Usul Fiqh, he claims that the companions have the same status as any of the Muslim mujtahids, without it even being obligatory to follow their fatwas. Ash-Shawkani brings the argument that we only have one Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we're not obliged to follow anybody else. So if the Sahabi makes ijtihad, that's his opinion. Hum rijal wa nahnu rijal, as they say. Hum rijal wa nahnu, they men, we're men. They were Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They have that superior status, not only spiritually, but as far as knowledge is concerned. Knowledge of the Arabic language. The Suhbah is a status that is a rank that is a very superior, that gives a special superiority to those who don't have it. Can't compare the fact of having lived with the Prophet ﷺ and seen. So it's not hum rijal wa nahnu rijal. No way. Yeah, rijal we're all men. Yeah, but فوق كل ذي علم عليم. Imam Abu Zahra in his book Usul al-Fiqh refutes the argument of Shawkani, claiming that the companions had the best knowledge of the Sunnah, and that to follow them is to follow the Sunnah, and to stray away from them is to stray away from the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah have mercy on Imam Abu Zahra. There is another element of the Maliki madhab which is very interesting, and I will raise it, and is the concept of consensus for Imam Malik. The concept of consensus, of ijma'. What did Imam Malik understood when he spoke about ijma'? Consensus. In order to better appreciate the meaning of the word the meaning the word consensus takes on in the fiqh of Malik, radiallahu anhu, since it's a word that Imam Malik continuously uses it in the Muwatta, al-amr al-mujma' alayhi baynana, al-amru baynana, ila akhirah. One must know that what other jurists understand by consensus. Now we're getting now into, each time is a bit more complex. So if this first part has been a bit heavy, now you will see what is heavy. We're getting into very fine elements. Imagine that you're using a program, a computer program, right? So you get acquainted with a specific program. Say that you use, as an example, Microsoft Word, for example. Okay, that is the same as following a madhab of fiqh. Now, to get into how that program has been programmed, and the language used to program that way, how it has been elaborated, that's what we are in. And that's usul fiqh. We get it into the fiqh, opening it and seeing how it has been produced. Which are the rules that have, which are the elements that have produced that final product, which is a madhab of fiqh. Alright? So there is a complexity into that, and it needs concentration to understand. If there is any problem, as I said, stop me and I'll explain it. As-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, considers that consensus is nothing other than a mere coinciding opinion. And I will explain that. Thus, if all jurists issue the same coinciding, thank you, response to a specific matter, that is consensus. Without necessarily them sitting together discussing it. Alright? So if you go and ask all the jurists of the Ummah, how many prayers are there? And they tell you 5 obligatory prayers. And you go to all the ulama of the Ummah, how many? 5. And everybody coincides that it's 5 without even having had any communication on them. The fact of all of them coinciding on this matter, that's consensus. For example, there is widespread consensus that there must be 5 obligatory prayers daily. Nobody disagrees in that. From this way, so on the basis of this definition of what is consensus by Imam Shafi'i, it's clear that consensus will only arise regarding the more general rules of the deen. Right? Like, for example, it's haram to drink wine. So, you go to any alim from al-Sunnah al-Jama'ah or the Muslims tell you, what's the hukm of drinking wine? Haram. You go to another one, how is it? Haram. So everybody coincides, it's haram. But this consensus will only happen in very general matters of the deen. Alright? Basically, consensus is that in which nobody disagrees. Now, from the point of view of Ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, consensus is not that mere coincident opinion. But rather, it is the consensus by which the companions came to provide a juridical response to a matter that did not have an obvious answer in the Quran and the Sunnah. The consensus then would be a unanimous ijtihad or effort performed collectively by the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, from which one is not allowed to deviate. So basically, a question arises. They look into the Quran, there is no answer clear there, or at least a clear answer there. Look into the Sunnah, is not a clear answer. So the ulama of the Sahaba get together and think, okay, what is the juridical answer for that? And if they all reach the same opinion, that is then consensus. Ajma'u ala hada. They have reached consensus on this matter. So it's not a coincidence that happens in a fortuitous way and from unconnected jurisconsults or people specialized in fiqh. Is a specific collective effort done by the specialists in the field, and they reach that opinion. But what Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal says is that could only happen in the time of the Sahaba. In further generations, the disconnection was so great that they could never, if not reach a consensus, really communicate among them, so the consensus is consciously reached. So it's like one is an unconscious way, the one of Shafi is an unconscious way by which, there is a consensus because everybody coincides in this thing, but it's unconscious in the sense that there hasn't been an active communication between the members who constitute the body that of that generation who have to coincide on something. Whilst the Ibn Hanbal position is more an active one, there is a connection and there's a discussion and they have talked about it. And he says that was only possible in the time of the Sahaba, where they could be gathered together and actively speak about the matter and discuss the matter. So Imam Malik, and now we're talking to Imam Malik's position, has a very similar concept to that of Ahmad ibn Hanbal regarding consensus. But look at this. And now we're gathering the elements that we've had. He allows for that consensus to have a continuation in the following generations of Medina. Shaykh Ali in his Fatawa states, in Medina there were jurists of a quality not found anywhere else, such as the 7 scholars of the followers, al-Fuqaha, al-Tabi'in al-Sab'a, famous 7, al-Zuhri, Rabi'at, Nafi, and others. Due to this, the Imam Malik based himself on them as mutual agreement among them had the category of consensus. So basing one's decision on their consensus and using it as a proof is not taqlid, but rather the very essence of ijtihad. That means that given the characteristics Medina had in the time of the followers and the followers of the followers, that is, being the place that inherited the fiqh of the companions like nowhere else, Malik saw the prolongation of the consensus of the companions in the consensus of those jurists. So the first generation phenomenon was still possible in the second and in the third generation. That is probably what the other Imams perhaps did not manage to glimpse, as Malik did. that the message had continued to exist in its full, correct manner and splendor in the second and third generations. Right? So, basically, what Imam Malik says is that he coincides with Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He said, no, there was an effort, a juridical effort done by the Sahaba. And they reach a consensus, and that consensus is necessary for us to follow. But not only that. In the next generation also happened. And in the next generation also happened. So what? Let me explain with us. So, on the board. So we have the generation of the Sahaba who got together to reach a conclusion, a juridical position, a hukm on something. And this is what is consensus according to Ahlul Hadith. So Imam Malik says that same operation happened in Medina among the fuqaha of the Tabi'in. Because they are the inheritors, this is a team of Tabi'in. They are the inheritors of those. They inherit the knowledge from them. So when they dealt with judicial matters, they had the proper judicial instruments to issue the proper and the correct hukum and ruling on a matter. And that also survived to the next generation, which is Atba' Tabi'in, in Medina, and it constricted it to Medina, because really the first consensus of the Sahaba could only take place if they were physically and geographically together. And in fact, Umar ibn Khattab, he forbade the most important Sahaba to emigrate out of Medina, because he needed them to sit with him and to think in difficult matters, because he consulted them. And he forbade very important Sahaba, the most relevant Sahaba, those with more knowledge of the deen, to emigrate out of Medina, and kept them with him to be part of his council. And that ijtihad that was happening there counts as, is binding for the Ummah, according to Ahmad ibn Hanbal, according to Imam Malik. But Imam Malik says, but that phenomenon happened in Medina and was replicated in the time of the Tabi'in, and nobody contradicts him. And in the time of Atba' Tabi'in, and nobody contradicts him. Where the contradiction comes is what Malik says, and this is also binding on the rest of the Ummah. The other fuqaha says, well, it did happen, but it's not binding because they are not all the Ummah. And the definition of consensus means the agreement of the ulama of all the Ummah. And Malik says it's not necessary that they are all the Ummah in order to be binding. If they are the ulama of the people of Medina of the first generation and the second generation, is binding on new people. Because Medina has that specific element, is the place where the knowledge was. And it's necessary that this operation could be replicated in the next generation and in the next generation. Because if you say that no, it only happened at the beginning, that means that the capacity of reaching ijtihad consensus and the judicial capacity to look into matters finishes with the time of the Sahaba, and it's not possible to be replicated. And Imam Malik said, no, the model of the city in its practice as part of the Sunnah and in its practice as part of ijtihad was transmitted and survived in the further two generations that came after. His opponents basically say, well, yeah, it did happen, it is an important consensus, but it's not binding the Ummah because they do not constitute all the ulama. Is that clear? I mean, I can go further. I don't know if you want me to stop here. I think it's better that I stop here.
So would you say Shafi and Hanbal stop at the first?
Shafi didn't even stop at the first. I mean, the concept of a Shafi is not even the concept of, it's like, it's another way. It's just a general thing on generalities. If there's nobody has opposing, then that's his opinion of consensus. It's another way. Ahmad ibn Hanbal is closer to Imam Malik. But Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he says, well, time of the Sahaba, that's it. I think I'm going to stop here because it's a bit dense, isn't it? It's a bit too complex. Not too, but it's complex. So I don't want to give you more information. I will leave it here and wait for your answers. Sorry, for your questions. Sorry.
You return to the... You're going to return to something.
Sorry?
You're going to return to something, the last practice.
Yeah, if I return to that, we'll end up at 8 o'clock. We'll end at 8 o'clock. But because the next part that I was going to speak about was why Imam Malik will reject the hadith if the practice of Medina contradicts the hadith. And why? Why? What does Imam Malik understand by the practice of Medina?
So when are we going to hear this?
Sorry?
When are we going to hear this?
Oh, whenever the Meme Institute decides when is going to be the next installment or the intensive or the next course, which the intention is, what is the intention? To do it once a month? So you'll have to wait 1 month. Because, yeah. But anyway, are there any questions? Yes? Yeah.
People in his generation, there was no ijma, or people just, I'm not clear on what you meant there. There was no ijma in his time.
In his time, he will say the ijma that is really binding is the ijma of the Sahaba, of the first generation. What came after, what he used to say is that, what came after, what you can say when you're asked is not to claim this is ijma. You can say lam asma' anhu khilaf. I haven't heard a different opinion about it. So if he's asked about a fatwa or about a position which is not directly derived from the Quran, not directly derived from Sunnah, and is not the ijma of the Sahaba, and he doesn't know, and he knows what is the opinion, or he takes that opinion, and he hasn't heard anybody contradicting it. What he says, the most you can say is, I haven't heard anybody contradicting it. But he will not claim this is ijma. You see? He won't claim this is ijma. Because for him, ijma ended in the time of the Sahaba. Right? Because the ijma is a chapter of usul fiqh which has a lot of opinions. Another element in ijma is whether ijma will last until the end of the days or not. It's very complex. So when you enter into it, you enter into something quite complex. And I've tried not to put you into the complexities, but just to highlight the element of Medina, which is the one that I wanted to show. Why Imam Malik gives this special precedence, this special relevance to Medina Munawwara. He believes that the whole Islamic phenomenon as it happened socially in Medina Munawwara in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and remained in the time of the Sahaba was replicated and existed in the next generation. So the Sahaba were successful in transmitting it. And they transmitted it and it remained living in the time of the Tabi'in in Medina Munawwara. And those Tabi'in were also successful to transmit it to the next generation up to the time of Atba' Tabi'in, which is his time where he registered everything. You see? Then later on the thing changed. But at least the transmission of the living example and the living model could exist, did not die in the time of the Sahaba. So basically what Imam Malik says, he says it is transmittable. It has been successfully transmitted. It did not die in the time of the Sahaba, and now we have to do archaeology. Bring this hadith and bring this hadith and put it together and see, oh, how was it? You see, it's not. You understand what is archaeology? It's when they do these excavations and take this piece of this port and this piece of this wall and they try to imagine how was a civilization. You see what I'm saying? Trying to reconstruct. He says you don't need to do this reconstruction. It lasted. I saw it. I will explain it to you in a way that you will understand. Very clear. I think Imam Yusuf. No, Abu Yusuf. I think him. I'm not sure whether it was Muhammad Shaybani or Abu Yusuf. He came to Imam Malik and he told him, and this has happened to me just recently. You will laugh when I tell you. It has happened to me, and I told him exactly. We have the same conversation that Imam Abu Yusuf had with Imam Malik. This man, Imam Abu Yusuf came to Imam Malik. He said, the Adhan has only 2 takbirs. You understand what I'm saying? You make the Adhan in this city with two takbirs. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. This is a clear hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. 4 takbirs. And Imam Malik says, the Adhan has been called in this mosque since the time of the Prophet ﷺ, then in the time of the Sahaba, then in the time of the Tabi'een, and then in the time of Atba' Tabi'een until my time, without any variation. Every day 5 times. Publicly heard. And you come to me with one hadith, saying that, oh, there is a hadith, sahih. Do you get it? Do you get it? Either the hadith is correct, and sometime along the line, either the Sahaba, Tabi'een or Atba' Tabi'een, they sat together and they said, we're going to drop 2 takbirs from this adhan. Either that, and therefore the hadith is sahih, either this is the practice, publicly transmitted from generation to generation from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and you've got it wrong. And your hadith is not reflecting the Sunnah. You get that? If you get that, you've understood it. Question?
Yeah, what were those words about taking the deen, either 1 from 1 or 1,000 from 1,000?
Exactly. You've just made an explanation of what I've said. Rabi'atul Ra'i, the teacher of Malik, said, 1 to 1 and we'll lose the deen from our hands. It will escape from our hands. 20,000 to 20,000 and the deen is safe. You see? 20,000 to 20,000 means something I've seen and I've heard since I was small 5 times a day. And I've ever heard that the Sahaba or the Tabi'een or Atba' Tabi'een got together to drop 2 adhans, 2 takbirs. That's the thing. And like that in many aspects. Imam Malik, when they'll come to him with hadith, he did stop there. This is a public thing done every day. Don't come to me and tell me that when Imam is giving the khutbah, you do 2 rakahs there in front of him. Because we know from something that is always repeated that when the Imam goes to the minbar, nobody speaks, nobody does any rakats. Imam Shafi will say no, but there is a hadith sahih about it. And Imam Malik will tell him, well, this hadith sahih was something that maybe happened in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that he gave that instruction, but the last practice was not that. And the same with this and this. Imam Malik clearly, when he's asked, do you put the right hand on the left hand in the prayer? He tells you, I don't know anything about that in the obligatory prayer. What do you mean what does it mean I don't know about that? It means I've never seen it. I've never seen that in the obligatory prayer you do this. It means I've never seen it. He took the deen from those who took the deen from the Sahaba. So he saw them when he was small praying. Obligatory prayers. And he never seen this in the obligatory prayer. He saw this. That's why in the Malik madhab, to do this in the obligatory prayer is makruh. Of course, there are other opinions in the Maliki madhab. There are always other opinions. I don't want to be how do you say, dogmatic. But I'm raising this point for you to understand the concept of Amal al-Medina and how Malik looked at it and how Malik understood what is the Sunnah and why sometimes the Sunnah does not necessarily coincide with the Hadith, right? So this is, I will take it, I'll consider it as done, as finished. This is the introduction to the Maliki fiqh. So now you understand these specific characteristics of Imam Malik, and it's up to you. It's up to you to, especially for those who are hesitant and they don't know which school of fiqh to follow. If you want to follow Maliki school, Bismillah. And if you are happy with following the Hanafi, Bismillah. Yes.
Can I just ask a question about combining two different opinions? Like in the Hanafi method, the Imam has to make the intention to lead the women in prayer. Otherwise, if women pray behind him, their prayers won't be valid. And in Maliki method, the Imam doesn't have to do a specific intention. So let's say you're Maliki and you come to pray behind a Hanafi Imam, and at the end of the prayer, the Imam will tell you, I've never made intention for the women, so your prayer is not valid. What will be
the rule? Is that the rule among the fuqaha of the fourth school is that if the prayer is valid for the Imam, it's valid for those behind. If the prayer is not valid for the Imam, it's not valid for those behind. So, if a Shafi'i prays behind me and I haven't said Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, my prayer is valid for me. And I believe it's valid, and it will be valid for him. Right? Even if I haven't done that. Now, if the Imams who prays tells you according to my madhab, my prayer will not be valid for you, then you'll have to go with his madhab. This is what I understand. And I may be wrong. Probably it's better that you also ask a Hanafi Imam.
So like when we pray behind the Hanafi Imam, we always have to ask him, did you make intention for women?
Well, if it's a mosque for men and women, I will take as a done that he will have that intention. Yes?
As I understand what you've just said, that if the prayer is valid for the Imam, then it's valid for all of the followers.
Yes, regardless of their matter.
So the Imam's intention to be leading women doesn't invalidate or validate his prayer.
No.
Yeah. It's for the Hanafi women to be aware when they're entering the prayer.
Yeah.
You see? So if you're not a follower of even if you accept that view that the Imam's prayer validates your own prayer, then that's enough. If his prayer is valid, because his intention,
but I get you, because it's valid for him, but he may be valid for him and the men behind him, but not valid for the women behind him. Are you sure this is a Hanafi position? Because I'm not an expert in the Hanafi madhab. It's good to know that.
And it comes quite often even in a masjid that is shared between men and women, because especially like in the Indian community here in Leicester, the women are not really going to the masjid.
In the case of the Imam here, if he puts the microphone on, that he's made intention for the women to hear, because obviously they wouldn't be able to hear his voice without the microphone. So whenever he puts the mic on, we know that's his intention. So that may give you some confidence in what
Doesn't an Imam just make the intention to meet anyone who chooses to pray behind him? Does he have to make a separate intention?
Let me tell you, this is the first time I come across it. I don't deny that this is true. What I tell you is that I am not. I didn't know this matter. Thank you very much for informing me about this. And every day I learn the same that you may have probably learned something from me. I've learned something from you. So this is very interesting, and I would like to ask about it. But I mean, if the woman is Hanafi and the Imam doesn't make attention for them, I think it's clear that the prayer is not valid for them, right?
Yeah.
But what happens if the woman is not Hanafi? That's the question, isn't it? I will come, inshallah, with an answer for that if I'm able to find it. Huh? I don't know. That's a good question. And I'm sure there is an answer for this. I'm sure this has come up before. So as I said, I will consider as finished this introduction, and the next, in our next Deen Intensive, we're going to go directly into the Murshid al-Mu'in. Alright? We're going to go directly into the Murshid al-Mu'in on the matters of fiqh. Yes?
And the thing that women leading other women in the prayer, in which matter is that?
Doesn't exist.
Because
In the Shafi'i they can. In the Maliki, if it's done, the prayer is not valid for the women. Led. You understand? So if a Maliki woman, for a Maliki woman, if you pray behind the Shafi'i imama, your prayer is not valid. So a Maliki woman has to pray alone if there are no male imam to lead her.
If you have already a madhab,
Yeah?
it happens that you have to move to another city where the madhab is different,
Yeah?
and you don't know how long you're going to live in this city that might take a while. Is it recommended to change your madhab?
If you have a way of somebody teaching you the new madhab, probably yes.
Maybe if you have a minority of maybe one teacher teaching you your fiqh, sometimes like continuously, is it safe to carry on doing your madhab?
Look, if you are a Maliki and you have learned the Maliki madhab well, wherever you go, you can carry on with your madhab. If you haven't learned it well and you want to learn the deen properly, and you go to a new city and there's no Maliki teacher there, that's when the question can be asked. What should I do? Drop my madhab? I find a Hanafi teacher which will teach me properly, and I will learn well the Hanafi madhab, because I haven't found a Maliki teacher. Then, well, it's better to هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. It's the same those who know and those who don't know. No. So better learn the Hanafi madhab properly. If you don't find a Maliki teacher who will teach you who will teach you what you didn't know, steal from your madhab. But if you find a Maliki madhab, Maliki teacher, stick to your madhab, because a madhab is something that takes long to learn. It's like a language. Huh? So you say, well, it's like I'm just started to learn this foreign language, and now I'm changing to another place, but I don't find like French, for example, I don't find that French teacher. Shall I switch to German? Well, it's better if you have a new French teacher, find a good French teacher, and he continues teaching you what you started already. Carry on. If not, and you really want to learn a foreign language, well, switch to German. You understand? I'm just comparing it. That's the way. Food. Alhamdulillah. So we finished today. If you have, do you have more questions? Do you have more questions? No? All right. If you have tomorrow, inshallah, we'll have opportunity to have more questions. So tomorrow we'll have 2 sessions. The first session will be on Arabic grammar based on the Muqaddimah al-Ajrumiyah, and I will try to send to whoever was in charge to send tonight the Murshid al-Mu'in. I will send the Muqaddimah al-Ajrumiyah in Arabic, so you can also print it. Have you got? Well, we'll talk about it. The one I've got doesn't have tashkil, doesn't have vowels. So I'll see if I can get one with vowels. But anyway, so if you can bring with you at least the first pages of that Muqaddimah al-Ajrumiyah, one, and second, the second session will be about Introduction to Tasawwuf, also based on the Murshid al-Mu'in. So if you can bring printed the first pages with the first verses of that section, last page, is the last. Yeah, print it and bring it with you. Alright? سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.